So this is Barry. I'm with a couple of friends of mine. Stephen Fisher, who I've known for a long time and is a good buddy, and his son Matthew. And they've written a book together called Light Shines Through the Broken Pieces, which I like. I'm always a sucker for a father-son story, and I really liked this one. So I thought we'd bring him in and talk a little bit about family relationships, addiction, and just healing and dealing with the world that we got today. So welcome to both of you guys. Glad you're here. And Stephen, why don't you just tell us a little bit about what you do and why we're here?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having us, Barry. So I'm a therapist. I have a master's degree in counseling. I've got license. I've been doing this for almost 25 years. I've talked to more adults, kids, couples, families I can count. Love doing it. Wouldn't do anything else. It's certainly a passion and a calling for what I do. So I feel very blessed in that. My wife Liz is also a therapist with me, and looks like Matthew is trying to follow in our footsteps too. So
yeah,
excited about that.
So it's one thing being a therapist with other people's kids, but it's different when it's your own kid, and it's different when it's your own dad. So how did that kind of unfold for you, Matthew? Where are you at with that now?
Yeah, just as far as where I'm at in life now, or like my own journey with it all, or what?
Just with your journey and what made you decide to write this book with your dad?
Yeah. So I kind of had my own struggles with substance abuse, and yeah, I just was able to kind of turn things around at 18, really because of the love and support of my family, and that just gave me a huge passion for working with teenagers and adults in recovery. I have been working in drug and alcohol treatment for about 3 years, and I'm currently working on a degree in addiction psychology. So yeah, just kind of having that personal lived experience of recovery, and also just really, yeah, having such amazing supportive parents that have really modeled good therapy, good parenting, and really just having that ideal in my life.
Cool. And I know addiction blows families up. And so you're working with families, and I know you guys are just getting ready to start something where you'll be able to work with the whole family together, you and your wife, and also you working with kids too. So talk a little bit about that and what the goal is for that.
Absolutely. So the program is called Healing Family Relationships, and it's really about working with families, especially with teens that are struggling with addiction or behavior problems. And so we'll have a once a month 4-hour seminar, and then we can work with couples, with the parents. Liz can work with people. I can work with people individually and couples. Matthew can also work with teens who are struggling with addiction. We'll do some family work together. So we'll do some individual, couple, and family work together to kind of work with families outside of the once a month workshop as well. And it's called Healing Family Relationships. So that's the program that's coming up next month. Great.
I wish you the best with that. And I know I've known you for quite a while, Matthew, and we got to meet when you were in your phase as a middle schooler and high schooler. And so, when you look at going through a journey of addiction when you're young and then going into recovery when you're young, that's something that most young people don't want to do. What do you think got you there?
Yeah, I mean, I think really just having like a background of supports and really being with Mile High, I feel like I had a really strong spiritual practice to fall back onto, which when I did choose to get into recovery was huge. But it really came down to my parents and the support they gave me. Kind of the turning point for me was I was about 18. I was at a girl I was seeing's house, and we were taking I took some painkillers and LSD. And just, you ever heard of like kind of a bad trip with acid? Yeah. So I was starting to feel anxious, and I told this girl, and I was like, hey, I'm feeling really panicky. And she was like, hey, like, I don't want to deal with you. You're bringing down my trip. And so, I just panicked, and I was like, I need to leave. And she's like, all right, give me your keys. I don't want you to drive. And which is cool, grateful for that. But I left. I was so high, I forgot my shoes, my jacket. So I'm just wandering around her neighborhood at like 1 o'clock in the morning in February. So it's like, snow on the ground. It's like, maybe 30 degrees out, and I just find my car, and it was unlocked, thankfully. So I'm like in my car, no heat. Just like my hands are like blue, and I'm just like really cold, and I'm just like, just the acid, I'm just like really reliving all these experiences in my life, and really just, I remember going through my phone and even calling some people and just realizing like, wow, like I've burned so many bridges and I just really have no one at this point in my life. And my mom had texted me, earlier, and she's kind of psychic that way. But I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to make it out of this situation. So I made the decision to call them, and they I couldn't remember the address, but I could see a cross street, and my dad was really good with directions in Denver, so he kind of came and found me, and they picked me up and took me home, and I remember I experienced psychosis for about a month. I couldn't work. I remember the next day I couldn't walk my dog around the neighborhood. So I was just really like, I thought I'd developed schizophrenia. So I, really just having my parents there through that point in time, it was I almost felt like an infant, and like just really vulnerable and helpless, and they really helped me kind of rebuild myself, and I was like really rebuilding that relationship with them, and as I about a month into it, a couple weeks, I started to feel better and I could work again, and I was like, I just can't keep living like this. So I remember like buying there's a book I got, like I started reading a lot of Daniel Amen, Change Your Brain, Change Your Life, Healing Depression for Life, just books like that, and just being like trying to understand myself and my brain and my body and addiction, and being like, how do I heal myself? So I started doing yoga. I took a yoga teacher training. I really started getting back involved in my spiritual practice. Just really taking care of myself. And that was kind of like the last time I really dove into any sort of hard substances, and it was really a huge turning point in my life.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, good. And so, what's it like going through this as a dad?
It was a little crazy. So getting that call at 1 o'clock in the morning, and Matthew is clearly not doing well. So Liz is on the phone with Matthew, just talking through, and he's trying to give directions in his current state of mind, and I'm trying to figure it out. We pull up in this apartment complex across town, and there he is in his car, and he's just shivering. He's just absolutely shivering, and he looks up, and the relief on his face is like, oh my God, thank God you're here. And so, we give him a hug and we talk to him, and Liz drives his car home and I'm driving him home. And as we're driving home, Matthew keeps saying to me, Dad, the love is all gone. Where did it go? And he kept on saying it over and over again. The love is all gone. I said, Matthew, it's right here. It never left. And that's the fundamental place that Liz and I were standing at with Matthew through all of his ups and downs, is that no matter what was going on, we always saw our amazing son who we loved, and we see the goodness and the divine within him every single moment, even when we're having to set boundaries, even when we're in court and I'm telling the judge to stick it to him. I still see this amazing, beautiful human being.
Yeah.
Never lost sight of that for 1 second.
Yeah. No, that's good. And I'm glad you're going to be working with families, because I think the undercurrent that brings so much anger to families is fear. I mean, we're afraid as parents. We're afraid that something bad's going to happen to our kids.
Yeah.
And it shows up as fear. It shows up as anger.
Yeah.
And it shows up as these arguments. And I think being able to work with families and try to get to the core of things is really an important part of it. And, I know for your work, Matthew, of working with young people who, we want to have fun when we're young. We want to have a good time. And, our culture is really just filled with drugs and entertainment. And so to say, well, I'm going to stop doing that. I mean, how can young people get there sooner before they have to hit bottom, or do they have to hit bottom?
Well, I remember, a kid coming through treatment, and he's about 18 and had overdosed on Xanax. So this kid almost died, and his mom's like making him go to treatment. And I remember talking to him, and I'm like, well, what's your plan? Do you plan on staying sober? And he's like, dude, honestly, like, just, it seems so lame. Like, I don't, like, how am I going to have fun? How am I going to meet people? I'm 18. Like, I'm going to go to college. What do you expect me to do? I'm like, you just almost like died, and you're still not willing to give up substances. And so I didn't say that to him, but I was just kind of reflecting and asking him, getting a little deeper, being like, well, why do you feel like why do you feel like that? And really, I think we just got to this point where he's like, I just don't know how to connect with people without drugs. I don't know. I feel like I just would never have any friends. And it just seemed like for him, it was like just so isolating and scary. And it wasn't even about like having fun. Like very obviously overdosing is not fun. Partying and till you black out is not fun at this point. But I think it was really this fear of isolation and disconnection. And I think beyond like the fun, people are like, oh yeah, like, let's go have fun and drink and stuff. And I think really be underneath that is this desire to connect.
Yeah.
Really, that's deeper than the just having fun. And I think so many times we're given this message in our culture of like, you can't connect with people unless you're drinking or unless you're high, or especially in Colorado, Mile High. We're, I think there's this expectation. And I'm like joke that I always have to explain to people why I don't smoke marijuana in Colorado. They're like, that's weird. But it's like, there's this expectation that that's just what you do. And I think there actually is this huge world out there. And being sober for me has unlocked rock climbing, yoga, meditation, outdoor recreation, and just so many beautiful, amazing people. And I really think it's letting kids know that there's other ways to connect to community that doesn't involve substances, especially in college and in high school, and really helping kids find a positive outlet to connect with people, because that's what we all really want.
Well, I think part of the thing with you two is that you really rediscovered that connection with your parents, and I think it's natural for us when we're like in middle school and high school to push away from our parents. That's just part of our development. And when drugs are associated with that, my parents don't understand. I'm not getting high with my parents, I'm getting high with my friends. And I think that connection that you found at a low point in your life, but going forward in recovery too, to have a strong family thing, I think that's a big part of your therapy, to keep the family intact and to work through this thing together, even though it might be really hard.
Yep,
right?
Absolutely.
And so I think that that's an important part of it, because you had that connection, and a lot of people don't. And I think that that's something that is a part of your work, is that connection for young people to find it in their family and to not just let their family go. And another thing I liked in your book that you talked about when you were in high school is just connecting with the aspect of toxic masculinity in males and that culture, that thing that we have in our culture. And I was reading a editorial this weekend by David Brooks about men and boys falling behind and not being able to find their place in the culture. And drugs and addiction are a way that men are dealing with that. And so how do you deal with dudes that are your age about the recovery thing?
Yeah. I think it's just modeling that. I don't think it ever works to be like, oh, like, you're messing up and there's something wrong with you, or like telling them what to do, but just really being like, yeah, like, I'm sober and I have plenty of friends and I have a life that I really love. But yeah, I think kind of touching on the whole toxic masculinity piece is like men are conditioned from a very young age. I feel like just with football and, it's like on the football team or media or whatever, pornography especially is just like this message of you can't be vulnerable, you can't share your feelings, that status is linked to sex, to drugs, to partying. And just kind of, that you think of like the stereotypical male hero in a movie, he's getting all the women, he's probably drinking, he's very stoic, James Bonds or whatnot, and really breaking that stereotype and being like, yeah, like, it's cool to express your emotions. It's cool to have healthy relationships with women and other men. And like, really breaking down those stereotypes is really important. Yeah. And also, I think, my uncle is a coach in Tennessee, and he works with a program that's really teaching men through sports and boys through sports, like healthy masculinity and loving relationships.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And, I wanted to ask you the thing with parents. You're going to be working with a lot of parents, and a lot of parents are going through their own conflicts between each other by the time their kids get to be in middle school and high school, and you deal with a lot of that. How do how do they work together, even if the parents have their own connection issues? How do they put the family in the front position in helping to get their kids sober?
Right. Absolutely. So with the parents, it starts with parents have to own our issues too. I don't know of any perfect parents unless you're like Jesus or Buddha or something like that. I've never met one. I'm a good parent. I'm not a perfect one by any means. He'll tell you that for sure. But if parents start looking at their own issues and they can take account of their own core fears, their own trauma from their past, their own patterns of how they were parented, their own issues with their parents or their dad or their mother or their own history, and look at how they parent, if they can really own responsibility for their issues, and then they can work on their communication as a couple, then it's easy to bring the teens and kids on board with that. If the parents won't do it, we're pretty much dead in the water. I can't get the kids to do it if the parents won't do it. So the parents model behavior we want to see from the kids of taking accountability for their own stuff, of communicating in a loving way, of really being mindful and not just playing the blame game. Because the problem is not the kids, and the problem is not the parents. The problem is how we communicate in a blaming and critical manner.
Yeah.
So it's the blame game. If we can stop the blame game, then we can do anything there. If we get the process right, the product is going to be just fine. And that's where it starts with the parents.
Yeah. I always say when I'm doing parenting workshops that this is I tell the parents, this is a self-improvement workshop that your kids have tricked you into taking.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what a
Yep.
parenting workshop is. And that's what this family therapy thing is going to be for you. And I'm really glad that you're going to be there to talk with the kids too, because I think a lot of times when we're young and we think about recovery, it's like, oh yeah, going to AA meetings with a bunch of old guys telling their stories. I don't want to do that. That's stupid. I'm only 18. I'm only 20. And I think to have a voice of not only a voice of experience, but a voice of hope and a model of no, life can work. Life can work without drugs, and I think that's a really important part of it. And I think for parents, a lot of times it's just getting off our authority horse.
Yep.
And I think a lot of that really comes from fear as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's just a lot of fear in our culture. The media projects a lot of fear at us.
Yep.
We're processing it, and our kids are processing it too.
Yep.
The kids are processing
Absolutely.
it too. And so I know you've been in a lot of recovery groups that got young people in them. What do you recommend in terms of the type of dialogue and the type of process that goes on in a place like that?
Yeah, totally. I really feel like mindfulness is huge, and there's a lot of programs out there that are starting to incorporate mindfulness more and just looking at the impacts on the brain. But yeah, I've been going to like recovery Dharma is a really good one, or worked at North Star Transitions, which is adult treatment, but we have a really big mindfulness based recovery system. But I think that AA is great, and I personally didn't go through it, but I think people can have some reservations, and it can be like a little bit shame based, or some people kind of find it a really religious, but really just finding something that's building a strong community, and really allowing for deep relationships. And I think there's this whole new model coming out with recovery that it's really like about connection, and healing and addiction is really about recovering lost connection. So anything that you're finding where you're connecting with a group of people and you're building support is really the most important aspect. So some place that has, like, I would say, just incorporates mindfulness that really allows for open dialogue and just kind of lets go of any sort of shame or oh, like you relapse, so there's something wrong with you. I think we need to just take that out of the conversation and really provide like an open just place for people to communicate and connect and heal.
I love the thing about community, because one of my buddies here, Reverend Raz, who's in recovery, he said that addiction is fostered in isolation and it's healed in community. And I think that it's important for what you're talking about, that young people can find a community of people where they can make friends, and that somebody cares that they make it. And I think that isolation that we feel when we're an addict, that shame, and that that inability to be able to connect with anybody else, nobody understands the concept of being terminally unique. Nobody's like me. I think is something that needs some healing. Go ahead.
I was just going to say you beat me to the punch on that quote from Reverend Raz, because I remember that same quote from him, and I've always admired that. That's always stuck in my brain.
And I just think it's so true. When you're in a community, somebody cares about you, that you make it. I mean, you had your parents, and not everybody has their parents. But the thing that I really got in your book is how you came back to, these people love me.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, I think being in group, the power of group, the power of being around other people that are going through the same thing and pulling for each other and kind of having an accountability partner. And it just helps you move towards a higher level of commitment. And I think because not only do you have somebody who cares about you, you care about them. And you care about them making it. And I think that you're finding that. And that's why, you've done so much of this wilderness training too, when people are pulling for each other to go through physical hardship, and then it helps them connect with their spiritual hardship as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So I thank you guys for coming in, and remind us again about your website and this thing that you're going to be starting up here.
So the website is FisherTransformation.com.
FisherTransformation.com.
And the program is Healing Family Relationships.
Okay. Healing Family Relationships. I want to thank you both for coming in. I appreciate all the work that you did. I love your book. Your book, once again, Light Shines Through the Broken Places. And I think it's a great family story, and I congratulate you both for doing it.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with us today. I think we had a great time. I hope you learned something, and let us know if you did. I'm Barry, signing off. Thanks, man.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.